Hey everybody, it's Alex from Jones Strategic Consulting, and today I want to talk about an item that is so essential to your survival during wintertime, maybe even during cold summer nights, okay? And that item is the Mr. Buddy heater, or a propane generated heater. Now, one of my biggest concerns is if it's wintertime and the power goes out, how am I going to keep myself warm? Sometimes you got to think about this whole disaster preparedness stuff is just going on one big camping trip, right? So a lot of the gear that I have is geared towards camping, i.e. there's no power, there's no toilets, there's nothing like that. And this, what I'm showing you today, the Mr. Buddy heater, well actually it's called the Portable Buddy Mr. Heater. I just call it the Mr. Buddy heater. These are sold again at any sporting goods stores or any retail stores that usually sell sporting goods. Now, this thing is extremely essential. And when I say essential, I mean essential. If we look back over the last couple of years down in Texas when they had the big freeze over and the grid went down and everybody was freaking out and some people died because they froze to death in their homes. If you have this, I can guarantee you, you can survive hypothermia, you can survive not dying in a cold house. Now, the first thing I'm going to mention is you got to make sure that you're not enclosing yourself with no ventilation in a room with this thing, okay? Because if you do, you will not wake up the next morning. The chances are you're probably going to die from carbon monoxide poisoning. So the best way you do this is, could you set this up in your house? Absolutely. But you have to set it up in a way that your room is ventilated, okay? If it's, let's say it's 15 degrees outside, okay? Let's say it's 15 degrees outside and it's cold in your house, right? You can start this bad boy up, and I would say within minutes, less than a minute, you're going to feel warm air, a warmer temperature than what you have felt before. So with that being said, I'm going to show you how to operate this thing. Now, if you remember from my other videos, I've been using these propane camping gases. Now, I like to use these because most of the equipment, whether it be my my camp stove, whether it be my heaters, whether it be my small camp stoves, I love to use the propane camping gas. And I keep a lot of these bottles around for that reason, because a lot of times they're universal to other equipment. Now, this thing right here, once it heats up, this is going to be really, really hot. So of course you don't want to touch this, right? So with this one, the heat kind of comes up this way and then up this way, okay? Now, in order to operate this thing, it's pretty simple, but I'm just going to show you how to kind of plug in some of the external things like the propane gas to get you started. These things cost about, I want to say about 60 to 85 bucks, depending on where you get them from. They're very valuable. A couple winters ago, I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Snow was everywhere, ice was everywhere, and what I did was I went into my truck and I wanted to sleep for the rest of the morning. I turned this thing on, and I kid you not, within about 5 or 10 minutes, I was like coming out of the layers of my clothes. So keep that in mind. It's very inexpensive, and it can definitely improve your quality of life when it comes to surviving a disaster, right? So you say, how do you turn this thing on? I don't know if you guys can see this, but on this side, this is where this propane gas is actually going to plug in at, okay? So what you're going to do is you're just going to, first, as always, you want to make sure this thing is turned completely off, because you don't want any gas expelled out into the heater as you're putting it on, okay? So make sure it's turned off, and then you're going to just screw it in. Right here is a port. Not sure if you can see that on camera, but right here is a port where you're going to insert your propane gas at, all right? So we're going to screw it in like this. Once we screw it in, if it ever goes in, okay? So once we screw it in, we want to make sure that it is pretty snug, right? You don't want it too tight, but you definitely want to make sure it's snug enough so there's no leaks, right? Then once that, you just put it down like this, kind of stands up on its own. This one, you do not need a torch or a lighter. It actually has a pilot equipped inside of this thing that you will hold down for about 20-30 seconds, and then you will let it go. Once you let it go, it's going to ignite the front of these the front panel of this to start to produce heat. And it will produce a lot of heat. There's also a function on here that allows you to put this thing on high or low. Believe it or not, you can run it on the lowest setting and get the actual heat that you need to survive if you get trapped in your house without power. So this, I highly recommend. This is a heating source for you, especially in the wintertime. I'm telling you right now, they sell these things at sporting goods stores and other retail outlets. You have to get one. Spend that 60 to 80 bucks to get you one of these in the time of need, because when it's cold, it's going to be really cold. But always remember, this needs to be in a ventilated room. So how do you do that? You may turn it on every once in a while. You're going to crack a window, right? Maybe leave a window open that much. And you also want to air the room out. But the only reason why I use this, honestly, is if there is a disaster that requires me to, the power is out. This will allow me to get a small room in a small space, hot really fast. And then I'll turn it off, get my sleeping bag, and then start to prepare for the rest of the night that way. This does not need to run all night. One, you're not going to get a whole night out of one propane tank. I don't believe you will ever be able to do that. But it will allow you to get some warmth, maybe get some other layers on so you can prepare for your sleep or just hanging around the house with no power. So Mr. Buddy, actually it's called Portable Buddy Mr. Heater. I highly recommend it. With that being said, stay safe, stay vigilant.